Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Marine Mammal Monday. So excited to be with you on this gloomy Monday here in San Francisco, but for a very special Marine Mammal Monday. Today, we're going to be highlighting our seal and sea lion superstars of 2021. So the year's not over yet, but wanted to do kind of a recap of some of the amazing and unique stories of patients that the Marine Mammal Center has been able to rehabilitate and work with this year. So you're in for a treat today. We're going to highlight the superstars so far of 2021 for this very special edition of Marine Mammal Monday. So excited to see you guys tuning in. I see the numbers climbing. And as you're joining, leave me a comment. Let me know where you're tuning in from today. Always love to see where we've got our viewers tuning in from. So let me know in the comments, where are you? And if you're just joining, you're in for a treat. We're celebrating a very special Marine Mammal Monday today, all about the seal and sea lion superstars of 2021. So I'll highlight kind of a summary of the different types of animals we've seen this year at the Marine Mammal Center. And we'll get to share a lot of really fun pictures and videos and just get some great feel good content out for you today. So you joined for a really special program of Marine Mammal Monday. So as you're joining, feel free to let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from. We're going to jump right in just a moment here since it's already 4:02. But let me know where you're tuning in from today. And we are celebrating Marine Mammal Monday, Seal and Sea Lion Superstars of 2021. So you'll get to see some of the patients that we've been able to work with and lots of great videos, pictures, and stories, success stories of marine mammals that we have rehabilitated this year. So I see Caitlin is joining us. Welcome, Caitlin. Thanks for hopping on. Also, would love to know if this is your first Marine Mammal Monday or if you are a repeat viewer or maybe a die-hard fan. I wonder if anyone viewing today has seen all of the Marine Mammal Mondays this year. Let us know if you are a Marine Mammal Monday superstar and have seen all of our programs. I see that Diane is joining us as well. Good afternoon, Diane. Thanks for hopping on. So great to see you all. All right. So we're going to jump right in. Welcome again to Marine Mammal Monday. My name is Laura Gill. I'm going to be our presenter for today, and I'm the Community Engagement Manager at the center. So that means I have the pleasure of overseeing our public programs and our outreach along our California range as well as out in Hawaii. And we do have the wonderful Katie joining us, who's going to be helping me answer questions in the comments. So throughout the program, feel free to leave any questions you have into the comments, and I'll try to answer them live. But if we don't get to them during the live, then we'll get back to you in the comments. So thank you, Katie, for helping out. I see we've got Kathy also joining us today. Hi, Kathy. So good to see you. Kathy's one of our regulars. All right. So, if this is your first time joining Marine Mammal Monday, I always do a quick introduction of the Marine Mammal Center for those of us who haven't been able to visit or heard of the Marine Mammal Center. So, we are the world's largest marine mammal hospital and education facility. So, we are completely nonprofit. We're rescuing, rehabilitating, researching, and releasing hundreds of marine mammals every year. And we do this work as far south as San Luis Obispo County and as far north as Mendocino County. So we actually cover 600 miles of California coastline with this work with marine mammals. And pictured here is actually our headquarters in Sausalito, so our main hospital. You're getting a bird's eye view. From the right, we have kind of our little visitor center, which is closed to the public right now for renovations, but our essential hospital and rescue operations are still working, still going. And then in the middle of this picture, you're seeing our pools and pens where we actually do the rehabilitation for those marine mammals. And then finally, on the left-hand side of the picture there, you're seeing those towers, which are our filtration system for those pools, as well as things like our rescue trucks, which you can think of like our ambulances, how we transport a lot of those marine mammals that we rescue. So, the way that the Marine Mammal Center is able to rescue patients is actually through viewers, the public just like you. When someone calls and reports a sick or injured marine mammal, you can call our rescue hotline, which is 415-289 SEAL. So it's really easy to remember. You can call that number if you see a sick or injured marine mammal, so seals, sea lions, whales, dolphins, porpoises along California coast. And then we send out a team of rescue volunteers to go and rescue that animal. So, pictured in the top left, you're actually seeing some of our highly trained, passionate, and dedicated volunteers that are helping to rescue a California sea lion, for example. And they go out, they respond with their tools like these large wooden boards that you see pictured here for protection and also to help move the animal where we need them to go. They might use things like nets, which you see pictured here, to help us capture and transport that animal. But eventually, all of those patients will make it to our Sausalito headquarters, our hospital here in Sausalito. And pictured in the top right, you're seeing some of our volunteers and veterinarians helping a sea otter. So essentially, any exam that you could have done for a person, we can do for marine mammals, whether that's something like stitches or x rays or surgery, you name it, we can do it for marine mammals. And of course, along the way, we want to do our research. We not only want to rehabilitate our patients that we see, but we also want to understand how they're getting sick and also how we can innovate and advance marine mammal medicine so that we can have even better treatments for these patients and also ultimately create a healthier ocean for them to go back to. So we work with a lot of partners, not only here in California, but across the globe. We're helping to advance global ocean conservation. And then finally, pictured in the bottom right, our ultimate goal is release. We want these marine mammals to go back healthy and happy to their ocean home. So you're seeing some chubby harbor seals that have been rehabilitated and that are being released back out to the ocean. So that's a little background on the Marine Mammal Center. And what I spend my time doing at the center is that educational piece. So it's really important work that we're doing, rescuing and rehabilitating these marine mammals. But if we don't share the stories of those marine mammals and let people know what's happening in the ocean through the lens of these marine mammals, we won't have as great an impact as we could. So, a big part of our mission is also to share all of these resources and knowledge that we've gained over the years at the Marine Mammal Center with all of you. So, if you haven't had a chance, make sure to check out our website, marinemammalcenter.org. We have tons of wonderful educational resources. You can see things like our published research papers up through our website. And you can even get involved with the center, for example, volunteering if you'd like to help out. There's lots of opportunity to see on our website. So that brings us to today, where we're highlighting our superstars of 2021. So it's true, it's only the beginning of December, so we're not quite at the end of the year yet. But I wanted to share some of the really amazing stories and the amazing work that we've been able to accomplish so far this year in 2021. So, I mentioned briefly earlier that the center right now is closed to the public due to renovations, but over the past 2 years, we have been still operating as an essential business, as a functioning hospital rescuing marine mammals. And so far, the animals that we have admitted to rehabilitate, I've listed the number of different species that we have seen so far. So you might notice that the top three are the California sea lions, the northern elephant seals, and the Pacific harbor seals, which is pretty normal for us. Those are our three most common patients. So we actually see California sea lions typically year round. We see northern elephant seals in the early spring as well as Pacific harbor seals. But we have a number of kind of unique marine mammal species that we've cared for this year that you'll see are kind of less common than, let's say, the California sea lion. So I thought it would be fun as part of our seal and sea lion superstars for this year to highlight some of those more rare species that the center works with. Because if you've joined for previous Marine Mammal Mondays, you've heard a lot about California sea lions and our work with them. You've heard a lot about elephant seals and harbor seals, but you might be a little less familiar with things like the northern fur seal or the Guadalupe fur seal or things like the stellar sea lions. So I'm really excited to share some of those more unique and rare species with you today. Now, as much as I would love to share all 368 different stories of each patient that we've rescued so far, I narrowed it down to just five patients, five individuals, five animals that I'll share with you that, again, are more unique and less typical to the center. So we'll be focusing on those top five. And so I had a really hard time narrowing it down to these five, as you can imagine, from over 300 options. But these are some really amazing superstars that we're going to highlight today. So I'll talk about Suki, the northern elephant seal, Ivy, the northern fur seal, Ursa, the stellar sea lion, Spinny, the southern sea otter, and Eleu, our Hawaiian monk seal. So we're going to get some really good stories about these guys. And while these are our top five marine mammal superstars for today, the only way that we could rescue these animals is because of people like you, again, calling and reporting any sick or injured marine mammals along the coastline to our 24-hour hotline. So thank you. You are also superstars for supporting our work of the center in that way. All right. So, first up, we have Suki, who is a northern elephant seal pictured here. And Suki was actually rescued in April, so earlier this year, from Natural Bridges State Beach in Santa Cruz, California. So a little bit further south along our range is where Suki was rescued. And if you've ever been to Santa Cruz before, you might know that Natural Bridges is a really common, popular beach for people to go and hang out at. And so when we actually got the report that there was a northern elephant seal on the beach there, it was pretty unusual because this is a really highly populated area with lots of people. And so that immediately was something that the Marine Mammal Center wanted to make sure to go and check out. And if you ever come across this kind of situation where you're at a very crowded or a popular beach destination for people and you see a marine mammal, it's so important to call the Marine Mammal Center, report it to us, and you can be a huge ally to us by making sure that people keep a safe distance from that animal because you never know if that marine mammal is sick or it could be dangerous if you get too close. So you can be a huge ally for protecting the safety of that marine mammal and for yourself, making sure that you keep a safe distance if you ever come across this kind of situation. So, Suki, thankfully, someone called and reported this northern elephant seal to us, and we sent out a team to go and rescue Suki. And just like at a human hospital, every patient, once they are admitted to the center, will get an admit exam. So, a physical exam to see how their body condition is. We'll, take samples to send to the lab of blood or feces or urine so that our veterinarians can do a proper diagnosis of that patient and come up with a treatment plan. And so once we got Suki on site, we saw that Suki had stingray barb injuries. So maybe was trying to eat a stingray, which you might know have those barbs or those spines that can actually sting, and also had an eye infection. So poor Suki had a couple of injuries and infection and was also malnourished and underweight for Suki's age. So, for a little bit of context, it's hard when you see something like a northern elephant seal. You might not know what a healthy one versus an unhealthy one might look like. So, I've put up these two pictures here where on the left, you can see a normal 1 to 2 month old elephant seal in the wild. They look really nice and rotund when they're healthy like this. You can see lots of fat and cushioning on that elephant seal, or as we call it, blubber. And then on the right hand side, you're seeing pictured a malnourished or an underweight elephant seal. And this is an example of an elephant seal that might need some extra help. So for Suki, we actually found one of the exams we do when we bring them into the hospital is actually just weighing them to see what their weight is like. And Suki was very underweight. She was only about 80 pounds. And for extra context, elephant seals are born at 75 pounds. So Suki was right around birth weight, but was almost 3 or 4 months old. So this is very underweight for an elephant seal at 3 to 4 months old. So, right off the bat, our veterinarians knew that Suki needed a lot of really good, healthy fish, a lot of good food to eat to fatten her up. And thankfully, over her time at the center, she actually left. When she was released, she weighed 213 pounds. So she went from 80 pounds to 213 over her time at the Marine Mammal Center. So she got a lot of really good fish and fattened up. So that was to help with the malnourishment. And then to take care of that eye infection, though, that is a little more of a complicated procedure that the Marine Mammal Center has actually done quite a lot of work with elephant seal vision. In fact, we have restored vision to an elephant seal that was blinded due to cataracts before in the past. So we are well versed in kind of working with the vision of elephant seals. So thankfully for Suki, in that case, it wasn't as severe, but to get a good look at that infection, she was anesthetized. So you can see her on the table here with two of our veterinarians monitoring her very closely, examining that eye to make sure that we could give the right medication, the proper care, heal it up, and make sure that everything was looking good with that eye. So thankfully for Suki, everything went well with this exam and her eye healed. And eventually she was able to be released at a very healthy weight. And I wanted to share kind of just a quick little video clip of what that release looked like. So here you're seeing a couple volunteers that transported Suki in this kind of metal carrier to the beach. And then in the video, you'll see us slide open that door for Suki to make her way back out to the ocean. So let me play this video for you here. So, a great clip of Suki being released happy and healthy back to the ocean. And I just love, hopefully, that video came in clear for everyone. But if you couldn't see her, if it was glitching, Suki kind of comes out of that carrier, turns around, and almost looks as if she's saying thank you, and then continues out to the ocean. So, just a beautiful, wonderful recovery for Suki. And really, you can just see the impact of people's support. So here is healthy Suki as she's returning back to the ocean. So she made a full recovery, returned to her ocean home, and it was because of the wonderful support and people just calling and reporting those marine mammals to us. So Suki is our first superstar so far, and we're going to move on to our next superstar, Ivy. So, Ivy is actually a northern fur seal, and Ivy was rescued in the northern part of our range. So we just rescued Suki in Santa Cruz, which was kind of further south. And now Ivy was rescued from San Rafael, so a little further north, and was rescued for being malnourished and also separated from mom too soon. So I mentioned that ivy, though, is a northern fur seal. And I'm really curious in the comments if you could let me know, have you ever heard of or seen a northern fur seal before? Let me know in the comments. Have you ever heard of or seen a northern fur seal? And if you don't know, you could also type that you don't know. But would love to see who has either heard of or seen a northern fur seal before. Leave me a comment. Would love to get a sense. Pam shares, have never seen a seal with fur. She looks like a puppy. She does have kind of that puppy like face and those long Yoda like ears, doesn't she? So, all marine mammals, however, do have fur, but you might be, when you see them, the fur might be wet. So sometimes they look very slick, but all of marine mammals have some type of fur at different stages in their life. So Alana shares that she has heard of northern fur seals before. That's awesome. That's great. So let me know in the comments if you have seen or heard of northern fur seals before. And pictured here is Ivy, which is an example of a northern fur seal. Kathy is sharing that she has definitely seen northern fur seals before, perhaps at the center. So if you haven't heard of a northern fur seal before, it's actually not too surprising because northern fur seals are a pelagic species. So that means they spend most of their time out in the open ocean, swimming, even things like sleeping, they do out in the open water, and really only coming ashore to breed. So to have their babies or find their mates, or if they're sick. Those are really the two only reasons that they would come ashore. So the northern fur seal is kind of one of those more rare species that, I'm not surprised if you haven't heard of or seen them before. So I wanted to share a little context before we get into Ivy's story about the northern fur seals because they are a little more rare. So this is actually a photo of some adults and pups, both male and female northern fur seals. So you can see that the males are quite a bit bigger than the females, and the pups, when they're first born, have kind of this darker coat, almost a black coat like this here. So there's quite a size difference between males and females. But they also have this very, as adults have this, and as pups have this very kind of pointed snoot or snout. So they are a little more unique looking. And you might guess, looking at this adult male here, that the way they got the fur seal name is because they have extremely dense fur. So not quite as dense and furry as a sea otter, for example, which has a million hairs and just 1 square inch of fur, but they do have fairly dense, thick fur. And for that reason, unfortunately, they were hunted for their fur during the fur trade. So today, their population is still depleted. It's not quite back up to historical numbers, but they are not a threatened species. They are listed as depleted, though. So I mentioned that they only come on land to breed. So this picture is an example of what a breeding or a mating rookery would look like. And off the California coast, there are actually a couple places that we expect to see northern fur seals breeding. So down south, off of Santa Barbara's coast, there are the Channel Islands, and specifically at San Miguel Island, we see a lot of northern fur seals breeding there. But also here off the coast of San Francisco, there are the Farallon Islands, where more recently the northern fur seals are starting to use that again as a breeding ground. So that's a good sign as well. So we do rescue a number of northern fur seals at the Marine Mammal Center. Typically, it's the younger pups, but we have rescued adults before. And actually, pictured here is an adult male northern fur seal that we rescued a couple years ago named Inky. And this is Inky's release photo. We were able to successfully rehabilitate him and release him back to the ocean. But we are here to talk about Ivy, the northern fur seal pup. So, what better way to share than through pictures? And you might guess that Ivy got their name for a very specific reason, and we will find that out in the video here. So, let me go ahead and play this for you. So there you go. Hopefully that video was coming in nice and clear. And we'll also share the link to this video in the comments so you can watch it directly on YouTube. But hopefully you gathered from this video that ivy was named ivy because they were rescued from a patch of ivy that they had wandered into after kind of crossing some roadways. So in a very unusual location for a young northern fur seal pup. So little Ivy is thankfully is currently on site with us right now. So Ivy is a much more typical story of the northern fur seals that get rescued by us at the Marine Mammal Center. A young, malnourished pup. And what we see is that northern fur seals, they're typically born in early summer, sorry, and they stay with their mom for about 4 months or so. So a pretty short weaning period. And it's during those few months that they're learning how to swim and how to hunt. And then after this, they actually separate from mom and fend for themselves in the ocean after just 4 short months. However, you can imagine that if a fur seal pup gets separated too early from mom, they can really struggle to fend for themselves with. Especially if they have to dive really deep for food or swim for very long periods of time. So it can be really challenging for these young pups. And we tend to see more of these young pups stranding when we see changing ocean conditions like warming water temperatures, which would make their prey items like fish swim to cooler, deeper waters or further offshore. So a young pup may not have the stamina to go and dive as deep and dive as far to get those prey items. So Ivy still has a way to go. Ivy's been with us for a little over a month and still has some healing to do, but is in our hands and receiving the care that Ivy needs. All right. Oh, there we go. So I see that we got a question from Pam asking if the fur helps to keep them warm for northern fur seals. And yes, it does. In addition to having that thick layer of blubber that we talked about with the northern elephant seals, northern fur seals have that blubber, but they also have the added pleasure of a thicker, dense fur coat that will help keep them warm. And it makes a lot of sense when we think about the life history of the northern fur seals that spend most of their time out in the open water. Like we talked about, it would make sense that they would have not only blubber but a nice thick coat of fur to help keep them warm. Great question, Pam. Okay, so this brings us to our next seal and sea lion superstars. And this is kind of a twofer, actually, since you may notice that there are two animals pictured here. So this is Ursa and Colby. And these are two patients like Ivy who are currently on site at the center being rehabilitated right now. So these two, however, are stellar sea lions, very different than the northern fur seal. And stellar sea lions are one of the least common patients at the Marine Mammal Center. So we actually don't see them all that often. In our history at the center, we've rescued just over 35 stellar sea lions, and most of them have been younger pups that were separated from their moms too soon. So, kind of a similar story as the northern fur seal, but much more rare for us at the center. So, here we've got two that are currently on site, Ursa and Colby, and they were rescued in June and July of this year. And Ursa actually came to us from Santa Cruz. So if you remember Suki, our first patient we talked about, rescued in the same place, Santa Cruz, California. But Colby came to us from Oceanside in Tillamook, Oregon. So actually way further up and in fact out of our rescue range and was transferred to us from a partner that rescued Colby. And then we transferred to our facility here in Sausalito. Now, Ursa was only around Colby was only around 7 days old at rescue, which is, just the first week of life where they really should be nursing with mom, a really critical period. And then Ursa was only around 3 weeks of age before getting separated from mom. So both of them were only a week or a couple weeks old, very young, and had been separated from mom too soon. So, for a little extra context about the stellar sea lions, they are the largest of the sea lions. So, pictured here, you'll see the big guy in the middle. This is a stellar sea lion. They're very large, can get up to 2,000 pounds. And you'll see that he's surrounded by adult California sea lions. So it just gives you a sense of scale for the stellar sea lion versus a different species, the California sea lion, for example. Now, for the stellar sea lions, the pups are born from mid May to mid July. And unlike the northern fur seal or the northern elephant seal, they actually stay with their mothers for a long time. So they'll stay with mom for at least 10 to 12 months, sometimes more, before being able to swim and hunt on their own. So they have a very tight social bond with their mothers. So, for a pup who becomes separated early from mom, like Ursa or Colby, there's actually a pretty low chance of survival without help. So, thankfully, we were able to rescue these two and bring them back to our hospital in Sausalito. Now, another interesting aspect of working with stellar sea lions is that stellar sea lions also have an endangered population. And what I mean by that is that there are actually two distinct populations of stellar sea lions, which is what's pictured here in this map. You'll see that there's a western population that you can find off of the coast of Alaska, the Aleutian Islands, even up to Russia. And that population is actually listed as endangered. And then you'll see this line kind of halfway through, and the eastern population, which is found along the coast of Canada, Washington, Oregon, California. And that population is actually a conservation success story. They were previously listed as threatened, but are one of the very few animals to be delisted or removed from the endangered species list. And that population has been continuing to increase at about 2%. So, this is great news for that half of the population, but also working with the Eastern population or a non threatened population can provide really valuable insights for an endangered population, especially one that is so similar, like these stellar sea lion ones here. So, has great implications for working with kind of those more threatened or endangered species. So I mentioned that the stellar sea lions, they're really social. They have this strong bond with their moms at a really young age. So this makes them a little bit more challenging to rehabilitate when they get separated from mom too soon because they can easily kind of imprint or get used to human presence or people or caretakers, and that's really something that we have to be very careful about at the center because our ultimate goal is to release those animals back to the wild. So we want to try and minimize that human contact. So we do a couple of different things to make sure that we're not in contact with them too much. So for a only a week old or a couple week old pup, we might take a strategy like using these feeding bottles instead of doing a bottle feed that's very high in contact with people. So we very much limit human interaction to make sure that that pup has the best chance of release. And then again, for context, on the right here, you're seeing a picture of Colby, the Steller sea lion pup, who's only a few weeks old, next to a California sea lion pup. So you can see the big difference in their sizes here. So, for both Colby and Ursa, our stellar sea lion patients, they've been doing really well. They've been with us for several months now, and just recently have started to learn how to eat solid fish, which is a huge step towards their rehabilitation and eventual release. So, it's really impactful work that we can do with these young pups. All right. Now, this brings us to another a threatened species that we work with, and definitely a fan favorite, the sea otter. So pictured here is Spinny, the southern sea otter, who was rescued in August of this year from the farther south end of our range in San Luis Obispo, and was rescued for malnutrition, which has been a common thread throughout all the stories we've talked about so far today, but also for some trauma. So Spinny did have some shark bite wounds that we wanted to make sure to treat. Now, it's not typical that sea otters, they're not a typical prey item of sharks, because sea otters, as we kind of talked about a little bit before, rather than having a lot of blubber, they have a very dense fur coat to keep them warm. So they're not very blubberous. And something like a shark is looking for a really high fat, really blubbery marine mammal to eat. So they actually don't prefer sea otters because it's kind of like eating a big hairball, essentially. So what happens is sharks may take a bite and realize that it's not something that they want to eat. But unfortunately, sea otters have kind of a small, soft body, so they would end up with some injuries there. Now, thankfully, depending on the severity, that is treatable. So we had some folks kindly call in and report Spinny, the sea otter, and we were able to get a team out to go and rescue. Now, the center, though, has worked with a lot of sea otters throughout our history. Actually, since our founding in 1975, we've responded to over 500 sea otters. And we're really specializing at the center with older adult otters. And we're lucky that in our area, we actually have a partner over at Monterey Bay Aquarium to help rehabilitate younger pup sea otters, for example. So pups will go to Monterey Bay Aquarium, where they have a surrogate mom program where older female otters will actually adopt pups that have been abandoned and kind of teach them how to otter. They're really good at teaching young otter pups how to be an otter. And then here at the Marine Mammal Center, we'll take the older otters if they are in need of help. So, for example, Spinny, if they have a shark bite or some kind of infection or disease, we'll work with those older otters. So, for otters like Spinny, though, like those adult otters, they come to us. And I mentioned that Spinny was rescued due to malnutrition, but also a shark bite injury. So I'm going to share a quick video, and I wanted to pose a quick disclaimer that Spinny was wounded. So you'll see a couple of those wounds very briefly in this video that I'll show you. But I wanted to make sure that we got a chance to see Spinny's story. So here's a quick video of Spinny. So hopefully that video came in nice and clear. We can also share the link to that video in the comments for you so you can watch it later. But Spinny was successfully rehabilitated and released, as you hopefully saw in the video, back to the ocean, even after something like a shark bite. And I wanted to share what the treatment kind of looks like and what our pens kind of look like specifically for sea otters at the Marine Mammal Center because Spinny got to stay in our luxury otter suite, which you see pictured to the right here. So, this is a very special pen that was specifically designed to rehabilitate adult otters. So, what you'll notice is that there's a pool, a large pool, and also a dry area that's kind of separated out from each other. So we can more easily control the temperature of the water in this pool for that sea otter and kind of make a nice sea otter jacuzzi if we need to, make that water really warm. Or we can also separate out the dry land from the water if the patient needs to be on dry land. So this is a really specialized pen specifically for our sea otter rehabilitation at the center. So once Spinny was at the hospital and staying in our luxury sea otter suite, our main concern was just making sure that Spinny wasn't losing body heat because those wounds that he had from the shark bite were disrupting his normal grooming and exposed his skin. And it's really important for sea otters to keep up their temperature. We talked about how they don't have a lot of blubber to keep themselves warm, so that fur is really vital. So we wanted to make sure that Spinny was healing, that those wounds were healing well, that Spinny was well fed, and also that he stayed nice and warm. So that's how we kind of specialize this pen to work with sea otters specifically. So thankfully, Sminny had a great recovery. The wounds healed up really nicely, and actually, the salt water in our pens is very naturally antibacterial, so it helps to clean and flush out any of those wounds. And we gave medication as well to prevent infection. And you're also seeing a picture here of Sminny eating some delicious, sustainable seafood that we feed our patient. Looks like he's munching on some squid right there. So lots of food, lots of rest, warm water, and Spinny was able to heal and be released back to the ocean. And this is a picture here of Spinny, who you also may have seen in the video and might have guessed that the way Spinny got his name is because he liked to spin around. And here was one last final spin. Looks like he's waving goodbye here as he was released. So working with the sea otters, though, we're working with these individuals, but it's really helping to contribute to a critical conservation effort with a threatened species like the sea otter. Because you may know that sea otters are a keystone species, which means that they help to make sure specific ecosystems are very healthy, specifically the kelp forest ecosystem, because sea otters love to eat things like sea urchins, which are these purple, spiky guys that you see pictured here. And urchins are herbivores, they eat kelp or algae. And if we don't have sea otters to help maintain that urchin population, then the urchins tend to eat all of the kelp. And kelp is so valuable for so many reasons. It's a great ecosystem for lots of other animals like fish to be able to thrive in. It also helps to produce a lot of oxygen for the air that we breathe, even on land. So it's a really vital ecosystem, and sea otters have a very important role to play in keeping that ecosystem balanced. So, really important that we work with sea otters and their conservation to preserve the whole ecosystem. So that's a little bit about our sea otters and the sea otter spa that we've got set up at the Marine Mammal Center. And this brings us to our final superstar of the day, Eleu, who is one of the Hawaiian monk seals that we were able to rehabilitate this year. Now, this name, Eleu, is a little unique compared to maybe some of the other names that we have for patients because in Hawaii, out in our at our Hawaii hospital, our patients are named by a cultural advisor. And this is a person who observes and learns about the Hawaiian monk seal and then names them to reflect their personality and the Hawaiian spirit. So Eleu actually means lively, active, alert, and nimble, which is because Eleu was very lively and alert and nimble. So it was the perfect name for this very energetic Hawaiian monk seal that we rescued. So Eleu was rescued in June of this year, and you'll see that Eleo was rescued from Midway Atoll in Hawaii. And I have a map in the next page that I'll show to provide some context for where that is. But rescue due to malnutrition. So this has been a common theme throughout the day. Basically, every patient we've talked about today has been malnourished. So it's a common issue for marine mammals. So I mentioned that Eleu was rescued from Midway Atoll, which is out here in the northwestern Hawaiian island chain. So you can see kind of the third to fourth to last island out here. And the Marine Mammal Center we have our facility that helps treat the endangered Hawaiian monk seal on the big island of Hawaii. So that's all the way over here where you see the black line pointing to it. We do have a hospital out there dedicated to working exclusively with the endangered Hawaiian monk seal. So Eleu had to be transported all the way from Midway Atoll to the big island of Hawaii to be treated. So thankfully, we have our hospital out in Hawaii called Ke Kaiola, which means the healing sea. And again, we're working just exclusively with the Hawaiian monk seal there. Now, you may already know that Hawaiian monk seals are the most endangered seal or sea lion in the United States. There's only 1,400 left, so each Hawaiian monk seal is really critical to the population. And similar to the elephant seals that we were talking about at the beginning of the presentation, A Hawaiian monk seal pup will typically nurse with its mom for about 1 month. So on the shorter side, but they do get 1 month together, where mom is exclusively staying with pup on the beach, won't go out to forage or get food for herself at all. She's dedicated to nursing that pup that whole first month until pup is fat enough and has lots of good blubber and that nutrition to be on its own. They're typically born around mid April, and they'll stay again for that first month with mom. But in the case of Eleu, they were either weaned too early, and and Eleu was observed underweight and malnourished. And this is kind of the biggest threat for Hawaiian monk seals, especially the younger pups that we see, for Hawaiian monk seals, but across the marine mammals that we've talked about today, particularly with warming water temperatures, changing where prey numbers are, how deep or how far prey is for young pups struggling to find that prey. So luckily for Eleu, we were able to transport her to Keikaiola. We were able to feed her and fatten her up, make sure she had all of the fish that she needed, and eventually then had to transport her back out to the northwestern Hawaiian Islands. So this is actually a picture of Eleu getting ready to be loaded on a plane to get flown back out for release. Once we got Eleu back out to the northwestern islands, this is a nice video of Eleu going back home. So let me play this clip for you here. So just a quick clip, and apologies, I think it glitched and paused for a second there in the middle. But that was Eleu returning back out to the ocean after a successful rehabilitation. So, throughout today's talk, we talked about a couple of ways to help our marine mammal superstars and definitely our Hawaiian monk seals, as we talked about a lot of the struggle of malnutrition and prey moving deeper or further offshore due to changing ocean conditions like warming water temperatures. So, one way to help all of these superstars is to reduce our use of fossil fuels and make sure that we are mitigating our impact on these changing ocean conditions. So, things like driving less will reduce your carbon footprint, or walking and biking if you can. We also talked about just calling and reporting. If you do see these marine mammals sick or injured on the beach, call and report to the Marine Mammal Center. And if you're out on the big island of Hawaii, you can call our rescue hotline there, which I've listed here. So, lots of ways to help these marine mammals, including the endangered Hawaiian monk seal. And really, we talked about all these different patients today because each patient is a way to understand marine mammal health, but also ocean health and our own health, as it's all very much connected. We all are interconnected to that ocean ecosystem. And all of the patients that we've kind of talked about today helped us learn more about marine mammals and more about that ocean health so that we can continue advancing that global ocean conservation, which is our mission here at the Marine Mammal Center. So leave me a comment. Let me know which was your favorite, or did you have a favorite of our marine mammal superstars? Leave me a comment. Let me know who your favorite superstar was. And I also wanted to share with the holiday season quickly approaching that if you check out our website, we do have gifts that give back. So it will help support the work of the center and making sure that all of our patients get to go home for the holidays, return back to their ocean home. And you can kind of spread the joy if you like and share some of those stories that you learned today about marine mammals and ways to help them. So be sure to check out our website and our online store if you're interested in supporting us in that way. It makes a great gift for the holidays. And I see some folks are sharing their favorite superstars. Kathy's favorite was Ursa and Colby. Good choice, Kathy. Let me know in the comments if you have a favorite superstar. All right. And that is all that we had for today for our Marine Mammal Monday superstars. I'll do a quick scan here of the comments to see if there are any other last questions. Caitlin was sharing that Ivy was her favorite superstar. Pam loves Spinny. Laura was sharing that they're all superstars, but the stellar sea lions, especially Ursa and Colby. Good choice, Laura. Megan over on YouTube is sharing their favorites were Suki and Ivy. Good choices. Oh, so great. Well, thank you all so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for supporting the Marine Mammal Center and making this work possible. We couldn't do it without people like you. So, thank you so much for tuning in today. Make sure to join us next Monday, January 10th, Monday in January for our next Marine Mammal Monday. We're excited to see you again there. And thank you so much. Hope everyone has safe and happy holidays and a great rest of your evening. Bye bye.